apologist. Street apologist. Street apologist. Whoa, on the radio.
Welcome to Street Apologist Media. I know you can't see me right now, but I am playing a relevant clip for today's program. What you just witnessed is part of a larger video, although usually a shorter version of the video was shown, at least in the beginning, that I guess went viral. That's being called a confrontation or a showdown between a Native American man and some people there celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, and a group of students from Covington High School, which is an all-boys Roman Catholic school. And the showdown essentially consists of this, and I'm showing it to you so you get a sense of what's happening. Now, how did this begin and who's involved? Well, actually, one of the main people involved you actually cannot see right now. I'm going to explain it all today, or at least as much as I can, in this special edition of Street Apologist Radio. My name is Vocab Malone. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to you. Today is Monday, January 21st, 2019. And what we're going to do is break down the Hebrew Israelite involvement in this clip. The Hebrew Israelite involvement. We're going to explain it. Who's we? I got my man on the line. I'm going to bring up here in just a second Abu Khamr. Abu Khamr is a Shield Squad affiliate, a longtime student of the Hebrew Israelites, specifically the One West movement, which began in 1969 in Harlem, New York. Check this out. Everybody, let me know if you can hear me loud and clear, please. I would appreciate that. Moderators, you're going to have a job to do today because I can see already there's name calling going on. Just let people know the rules, give them a chance, and then put them on timeout if they can't control themselves. And that's to the mods. To everyone in the live chat, please hit that like button. Please hit that like button right now. Don't worry, you are going to see my face eventually. I just want this to play out right in the beginning while I get things set up. That's what's going on. Please hit that like button, everybody. Also, grab this link and share it. Grab this link and share it. Now, when this originally came out, the way it was characterized was that there was a group of high school boys who surrounded a smaller group of Native Americans and were intimidating them physically, chanting and mocking at them, wearing MAGA hats, and it was portrayed as a clear case of bigotry and racism at a pro-life rally, because that's actually the big event that was actually happening. We're going to explain that as well. So get your stuff ready here, Abu, because I'm bringing you up. The first thing I think we just heard was you cough.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. I'm bringing you up here in a second. There's about 10 seconds left. I'm just giving people a sense of the scene, and this is at this point when it essentially had dissipated. It just dissipated at that point. So, here we go. Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of Street Apologist Radio. And I've got on the line with me Abu Khamr. Welcome to the program again, Abu.
Yes, thank you very much. And happy Martin Luther King Day, as you said earlier.
Now, Abu, they just saw the clip that was essentially the showdown aspect, the confrontation part. That's the part we just watched. Could you give a little bit of background about what happened before, in the sense of the pro-life march and the lack of reporting by the media, and then the walking up? And then we're going to actually play more clips. I have 20 clips today, ladies and gentlemen. So, Abu, quick as you can, set the stage.
Okay, so there was essentially it was three different one large event and two smaller events that were
Correct.
happening simultaneously within the area of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington D.C. The major one was the March for Life, which is a pro-life march, which has roughly 500,000 people attending. You had some kids, a lot of Catholic schools and other kinds of schools send their students to this march. It always happens on a Saturday. So some boys from one particular Catholic school had broken off from the march and were heading to their bus by the Lincoln Memorial. The House of Israel group had a camp there, DC camp.
All right, that's
I
where we
believe
got to
it's the.
stop. That's where we got to
Sorry
stop.
about that. Forgive me.
No, that's all right. That's all right. He's dropping the knowledge already. House of Israel. Who is the House of Israel? Well,
So, sorry.
hold on. What I got here is I've actually got I went to their website, which I have not seen anyone in the media do. They just called them Hebrew Israelites or Black Hebrew Israelites. Unfortunately, some of the parents actually mistakenly referred to them as Black Muslims. But I'm going to the actual website, awakenisrael.info/about HOI. We are the House of Israel. Let me read their bio, and then you can break it down further here. The House of Israel is a spiritual community organization based in New York City. We actively participate in uniting and building up the nation destroyed by colonialism, imperialism, and slavery. Our chief mission is the uplifting of the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, who are the 12 tribes of Israel. Through edification, news, and practical knowledge sharing, we currently are expanding throughout the continental U.S., bringing the word of the Lord to our brothers and sisters. We are told to go only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel and bid them to the marriage, which is coming back to the fold and raising up a nation under the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. We have camps in New York City, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia, and California. Contact us if you are interested in fellowshipping. That's their About section on the website. Abu, go ahead.
Do you want me to give some background on the House of Israel? What they're So the gist of it is, it's one of the many groups that are out there within the what we call the One West spectrum. I think while there are many Israelite groups, the ones you see on the street are almost exclusively One West groups. To give a very quick history of the House of Israel, they're one of the various groups that broke off from the House of David, with the House of David itself being a group that broke off from the ICUPK that existed at 1 West 125th Street. And that's the group, when you see the gentleman named Zabach, there's a lot of videos with him. If I'm not mistaken, he's the leader of House of Israel.
Yes,
Though he's mainly in New York.
And he's old school. He goes way back. And if you watch Zabach videos from the House of Israel in New York, they're always interesting and they're almost always inflammatory.
Well, I'll say this about him. The different One West groups run across the spectrum. In the last, I haven't spoken with him in more than a decade, but in decades past, I've spoken with him on 3 separate occasions, and he's of course he's fiery and he's very passionate about his faith, but he's approachable. He's a gentleman. If you're respectful with him, he's respectful with you. I'll say that.
A gentleman. As
much
clips
as a One
I
Wester
see
can be.
Say about putting people in chains and slavery.
Yes,
and cursing
forgive
them
me.
out.
It can be very rough. It can be very, very rough.
Slurs based upon their sexual proclivities.
Yes, there's a lot of that. So relatively speaking, it's.
So your standard for a gentleman is decidedly low because you're dealing with One Westerners.
Yes, perhaps.
All right, so it appears we actually do have a Hebrew Israelite sympathizer in the live chat, because we've got a comment that says, from Lions of Israel, it began with white cave beasts invading the USA. So what he's saying is he's explaining the situation.
Well, that's certainly on a wide timeline there. That's so.
And he also told me, why not get a real Israelite, cracker? So that's to me. So.
Well, it's a little early to be speculating about people's lineages here, but nonetheless.
Yeah, I'm curious how he knows your lineage so quickly.
Or yours. Yeah.
Right.
Or anyone's.
Right.
Yeah, but whatever.
But Hebrew Israelites claim that they can read spirits. Okay, so who are the Hebrew? Well, can you talk a little bit about the specific moment where because we're not going to show that clip today, but there's a specific moment where after about an hour or so of back and forth with the Hebrew Israelites and everyone there, they were cursing out the Native Americans, they were cursing out the pro-life kids, they were cursing out everybody and making all kinds of threats, yada yada yada. After about an hour and a half or more of that, that's when the Native American man drummer from Michigan walked in the middle sort of the two groups, the 5 or 6 Hebrew Israelites and the large group of boys waiting for their bus. Can you break that down real quick, and then I'm going to show some clips.
Yeah, what I was going to say is essentially it's a three-way clash. So you had the students from the Catholic school, you had the gentleman from House of Israel, and then there were also there, the one other group that was there was some Native American drummers for, I don't remember the exact name of their day, but it was a day commemorating the plight of the Native American history within the United States. So those drummers were there. So you have these three different events, and actually for a good portion of the video that's available, the men from House of Israel were actually somewhat berating the Native Americans, calling them idolaters, at one point calling them Uncle Tomahawks.
Let's break that down real quick. So Uncle Tom has become a slur to call a black person who identifies with white supremacy to the point they've essentially given in to the program and are happy and complacent with it. That's the way Uncle Tom is used in modern parlance. So they've got their own One West spin on that, and they were actually calling numerous times. This is right there in the video, and Abu, could you drop that? Well, you might not be able to from your phone, but
no.
I'll tell everyone what the video is titled because it's been mirrored. The full almost 2-hour video, numerous times they're calling the Native Americans. These are the Hebrew Israelites calling them Uncle Tomahawks. Uncle Tomahawks. Do you guys understand this? All right, now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the clip where the Hebrew Israelite went on his Facebook page and he said, here's what really happened. This is a longer clip, but this needs to be played. There is some language because Hebrew Israelites have language. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Your children was over there mocking us while we was teaching, standing to the sides with their little MAGA hats. Share this video. Standing to the side while we teaching our people, and the sister was arguing with us, our own sister, and your children were standing to the side mocking us, running their mouth with their little MAGA hats on. That's why I said what I said about y'all over there mocking. Come ask a question. Come talk to the teacher. And that's what made me say that. Right? That's what made me say that to them. And that's it. And they walked away. And that was left alone. So what you mean started? Nobody.
What he's saying here is he's being blamed, him and his camp. This is actually one of the Hebrew Israelites who is actually at the D.C. event. And he's going live on his Facebook to deal with the issues. Let me play the rest of this clip.
Started your children to mount up on us and surround us and start chanting and mocking the elders and doing so-called indigenous dances, mocking.
All right, so here's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. What really was happening is they were waiting for their bus. They were waiting there for their bus. And the Hebrew Israelites were already there in the same location. And at a certain point, the high school kids started doing high school dances and high school chants and high school cheers, which he interpreted as mocking. Now, I'm not saying none of the kids. Some of the kids did mock the One West Hebrew Israelites.
I would say the kids were definitely mocking the House of Israel guys. The way I would say it is, it started out with the One Westers. The House of Israel guys were generally attacking and berating the Native American group. And then these Catholic school students come up, they berated them a bit, and so these teenage boys were responding. They were engaging in school chants. Some of them seemed to be sort of jeering and at the One Westers. And that's, I think, is an important point, is that they weren't so much mocking the Native Americans. What happened was they were already chanting at this antagonistic group of One Westers and then of House of Israel group, and then later on the Native American drummers walk right into the midst of that, into the midst of this already chanting and riled up group. And interestingly enough, the guys from House of Israel noted that the students quickly calmed down upon the arrival of the drummers.
Right, so it was essentially between, at first it's the One West, House of Israel specifically, the House of Israel Hebrew Israelites. It's them against everybody. And then because there's so many high school students waiting there, it sort of becomes high school students versus the Hebrew Israelites. And into the midst of that come some of the Native Americans who were there. Now, again, this was a 2-3 day event there in D.C. for a pro-life march. It happens every year. Why? Because this is when Roe versus Wade was passed. This time in January. So every year, pro-life causes rally together, such as this. And this particular one, totally underreported by the media. There may have been as many as 10,000 people there. There was very little coverage. Very, very little coverage. Until it seems they found something they could report on, which they reported incorrectly, at least initially. And now you see retractions and things. But the interesting thing is the catalyst, in a lot of ways, is the Hebrew Israelites. All right, let's play another clip here. Actually, I want to play the rest of this man's clip.
Your children rally, the so-called march. Your children was there to mark the march.
I'm going to have to mute you because it's pretty loud over on your end. Sorry. So what's going on is the guy doesn't actually understand what's happening. He thinks the kids are there strictly to mock the Indigenous Peoples March. They never really interacted very much. So he just doesn't understand what's going on. He apparently didn't know about the pro-life march rally because the media hadn't reported on it. But they weren't there to do that. They were there waiting on their best. They had finished with the pro-life march. That's why they were there. He thinks they're there just to mock the Indigenous Peoples rally. They're not. Now, the Hebrew Israelites were there because of the Indigenous Peoples rally. They were there to, quote, preach to their people. But listen to this. Listen to what he says here.
And say to hell with your march, with your MAGA gear on. So if you so-called parents and you so-called white people want to share that video, share this one. That's what you need to do.
Here's what's funny about this. He uploaded the video, the longer form video, which showed a much fuller context, and then he deleted it. Fortunately, it was mirrored before he deleted it. But what's weird is he's saying he's upset people were sharing the full 2-hour video, which gave context. And now he's saying share this video instead because he deleted his own video. Why would we watch your 5-minute commentary and op-ed piece instead of just watching the video? It's super weird. He's the cameraman for most of it, so you don't see his face in a lot of it. You hear his comments, though, which he threatens a guy on a skateboard. Must have been a half a dozen times. He keeps on threatening, if you get any closer, I'm going to lay you out, etc., etc., etc. So he's upset, and now he's saying this. By the way, do you notice the propensity for Hebrew Israelites to call everything so-called? It wasn't a so-called march. They're not so-called parents. It's not so-called MAGA gear. All those things actually are. It's because they have the habit of calling Native Americans so-called Native Americans because they actually think they're Israelites. And so it spills over to their other language in a sloppy manner as they're prone to be.
Share that. Because that's who started it. You sending your children on some type of movement mission to say to hell with y'all. And then you're going to stand to the side mocking us while we having discourse or discord with our sister. So
I'm going to show you that in a second, by the way.
That's why I said what I said. That's why I called him corny-ass Billy.
They were, the thing is, the Hebrew Israelites began mocking the students first. They're like, hey, Billy, come over here and ask a question. And then he just started cursing at them. That was, they actually totally instigated. All you got to do is watch the video.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I said that. That's why I said, come talk to the teacher.
Now listen to what he says here and how he justifies it. It's bizarre.
Come ask the teacher a question instead of standing over there mocking us with your MAGA gear on. That's why I said that. So I got a right to speak like that. And I said I'd stick my foot in their ass. But y'all know that was just rhetoric.
So a grown man saying, I'm going to stick my foot in... Oh, you guys know that's just rhetoric. These guys. That's cool. That's all right.
I didn't even approach them like that. We didn't even have no physical situation like that. So y'all don't try to turn that into nothing.
Don't try to turn it into anything when I said I was going to stick my foot in a teenager's butt. Don't turn that into anything. You so-called white people, you be trying to, you come and you do your madness, and when don't nobody tolerate it, you try to demonize us about it. You try to demonize us because we don't tolerate it. All we want to do, we want to separate from you, that's all. Why you always got to come up in the midst of our situation trying to think you can get disturbed? Just leave us the hell alone. So you hear there some of their theology. They are what could be categorized as a black separatist group. So this black separatist group is at the March for Life, but inadvertently, They didn't realize they were at the March for Life. They thought they were just at the Indigenous Peoples Day, and they were speaking there, mainly getting to confrontations. Like I said, I'm going to show a clip in a second. Do you want to comment on that clip? Because that is one of the members of House of Israel's commentary on the situation.
I'm not even sure if they were even aware of the Indigenous Peoples Day, because I think that they may have just gone there because it was the Lincoln Memorial. I'm not how aware they were of the various marches, but nonetheless,
they said that's why they were out there.
Oh, okay. All right. I misunderstood that. Very good. Nonetheless, yeah, the whole rhetoric bit, I mean, I don't know what to make of it. It as you pointed out, it is curious that he took down the video which shows what actually happened, and he would prefer that people, well, I don't know if he took it down. He may have just set it to private, but nonetheless, he made it unavailable.
No one can see it from his page.
Yes, precisely. It seems like they felt it was something that had to be hidden. They have something to hide in there, and he would prefer that people just, take his word for what happened rather than see it for themselves, which is interesting. It's interesting. But
any other comments about this before we go to the next? By the way, his the name I'm looking for the name of the guy. I had it up before of the guy who's actually speaking. You know what? Let me see. I think
Shar Yakaza or something like that, or
yeah.
Yakapaza or something. I forget. Yeah.
Let me read a little bit of this Washington Post article that shed some light. I'm going to read it really fast. This is a tribal elder and a high school junior stood face to face and the world reacted. The three groups that met Friday in the cold shadow of the Lincoln Memorial could hardly have been more different. They were indigenous rights activists from Michigan, Catholic schoolboys from Kentucky, some wearing Make America Great Again hats, and Hebrew Israelites from the nation's capital. So far, so good. They were Native American, Caucasian, and African American, old, young, and middle age. By the way, it's part of the beauty of America. And there, beneath the fallen president's promise to work with malice toward none, with charity for all, they came together in an incident that would echo nationwide for its ugliness. They're talking about Lincoln there. The Israelites and students exchanged taunts. Video show. The Native Americans and Hebrew Israelites say some students shouted, "Build the wall." Now, that's true. That was reported to be said. However, in all of the videos that have surfaced, there's no recording of that being said anywhere. I'm not saying it wasn't said. I'm just saying we don't have any evidence it was said, is all I'm saying, other than we don't have any video evidence. Although the chant is not heard on the widely circulated videos, and the Cincinnati Enquirer quoted a student at the center of the confrontation who said he did not hear anyone say it. When a Native American elder intervened, singing and playing a prayer song, he found himself face to face with a dark-haired teen whose frozen smile struck some as nervousness and others as arrogance. Neither budge. Just like Abu said in our pre-conversation, not a fan of trying to determine everyone's body language. I think a lot of people think they're body language experts, and they're not. Video footage of the tense confrontation quickly went viral, stirring outrage across the political spectrum. The teen's church apologized on Saturday, condemning the students' actions. By Sunday, however, conservative commentators on social media were saying it was the students who had been wrong, and the organizers of the March for Life, which the teens had attended, rescinded their initial criticisms of the use. So notice, even sort of their own people and organization initially said, well, based on what I'm seeing, they deserve to be reprimanded, yada, yada, yada. But it's not just conservative outlets. I don't think Reason, I think it's Reason.com. It's like a skeptic, kind of libertarian website. They covered this as well. And they're usually pretty objective, and they said there's a fuller picture. Even the New York Times itself spoke about a fuller picture. So I don't know if it's just conservative commentators. I don't know if that's quite accurate. Yeah. But, it's still a decent article compared to what I've seen. The young man at the center of the video, who identifies himself to the Enquirer as 11th grader Nick Sandman, said he and his classmates had been called racist, bigots, and worse. And that's true if you watch the video. And he was remaining motionless and calm in hopes that things would not get out of hand. He released a rather lengthy statement you can read online. The Native American elder said he was caught in the middle. Here's a quote from Nathan Phillips, member of the Omaha tribe and a Marine veteran. When I took that drum and hit that first beat, it was a supplication to God. Look at us, God. Look at what is going on here. My America is being torn apart by racism, hatred, and bigotry. The incident and the finger-pointing that followed seemed to capture the worst of America at a moment of extreme political polarization, as discourse once again gave way to division, and people drew conclusions on social media before all the facts were known. That's true as well. The students from Covington Catholic High School in Park Hills, Kentucky, which is outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, came to Washington to participate in the March for Life, one of the scores of school groups bussed to the annual event. The Native American activists were there for the Indigenous Peoples March. So were the Hebrew Israelites, who believe African Americans are God's chosen people and the real descendants of the Hebrews of the Bible. Now, they actually have a quote here from Shar Yakata Banya Amena. So, Shar, it's Y-A-Q-A-T-A-Z, and then B-A-N-Y-A-M-Y-A-N. So, something Benjamin. Do you know the other parts of Boo? Of what he's
the Yakaza, I don't know. The Shar means prince.
So Prince something Benjamin. The reason we don't know everyone is because we have to translate because it's not Hebrew, it's fake Hebrew, it's One West Hebrew, it's Harlem Hebrew, something they called Lashawan Kodash, made-up language sometime in the 20th century. He says this: "We were there to teach the truth of the Bible, to show them our real history," said Shar, one of the 5 Hebrew Israelites on the mall that day. The group has militant members and a long strange list of enemies that includes whites, Asians, members of the LGBT community, which, boy, you can hear some vile things about that they really let loose on this video. Abortion rights advocates. Now, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. They're putting that in there, but Hebrew Israelites, One Westers, are not against abortion rights advocates. They were there, and they saw those students, and they were sort of against them based upon what they were wearing. But actually, Hebrew Israelites are strongly pro-life in the sense that they stand against Planned Parenthood, and you can even see some videos of them protesting outside of Planned Parenthood. So,
well, I think that's what they mean by against abortion rights activists, meaning people who are so-called pro-choice, that they would.
Oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I read it as in my head. I don't know why I did that. This is correct. This is my fault. I don't know why I was reading it as anti-abortion advocates or something like that. Yes. Abortion rights advocates. Yeah, they would be their enemies as well. Excuse me. And continental Africans. So far, so good. According to the SPLC. Banyaman said he and those with him Friday believe in using blunt language but not violence, even though a number of times he said, if you get any closer, I'm going to lay you out. Like, they made a bunch of threats. A video he posted to social media shows them insulting other marchers. "Where's your husband?" One Hebrew Israelite asked a woman who stopped to argue with the group. "Bring your husband. Let me speak to him." You know what? I think that's about... I'm going to bring up the video. Comments so far, Abu.
Yep. I'm sorry. Yeah, I agree so far. Go ahead, continue.
All right, I'm going to play some of these clips now, everybody.
I think the Yakataz, I think, means awaken. But sorry, go ahead.
Okay, awaken. All right, here we go. Here's some video clips of the initial things, including some of the confrontations with the aforementioned female participant.
Name that the so-called white man gave you. Indian means savage. You are not savages. You are the children of God, according to the Bible. You are the children of Israel. Before you started worshiping totem poles, you was worshiping the true living God. Before you became an idol worshiper, you was worshiping the true and living God. And this is the reason why this land was taken away from you. Because you worship everything except the Most High. You worship every creation except the Creator.
That's right.
And that's what we are here to tell you to do.
He's trying to speak.
We are here to tell you to wake up to the four corners of the earth. This is the truth of the Holy Bible.
So that is in the very beginning. Now, that video footage I got was actually from a combination of sources that are Hebrew Israelite channels that I don't think a lot of the media knows how to find. If you notice, the videos I'm showing are way more, the quality is much better because I have a better source that I'm getting these from, because I know the Hebrew Israelite channels where these things appear. And so I went directly to where these sources would be, and that's why if you notice the videos that I'm showing here, they look better and they're from a different angle than the others. So that was actually sort of the beginning of it. Now, I'm going to show the other parts that I said I was here in these next couple clips. Check this out.
The Most High God, His name is Yahweh. You're not supposed to worship eagles, buffaloes, rams, all types of animals. This is the reason why the Lord took away your land. Why am I so angry? Give me Proverbs 7 and 7. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you why I'm angry.
Ecclesiastes.
You're not angry? You're not angry?
You're making me a little angry, though.
I'm making you angry.
We're trying to celebrate. No, we're trying to
Celebrate what? What are you celebrating? What are you celebrating?
All types of disrespectful for no fucking reason.
You're the only one person here. You're the only one person here. Right, you don't even know what's going on. Give me Isaiah 58 and 1.
So you hear that she's saying, we're trying to celebrate, and you're bringing all types of disrespect for no effing reason. That's what she's saying so far. That's not the clip yet. It's the next clip I play. I'm setting up the context for the beginning of this discussion that it's referred to in the article. So this is kind of their beginning spiel. Now let me explain what they're saying. And in Abu, you can comment. The Hebrew Israelites are saying Native Americans are truly Israelites. They call them Gadites. They believe they're from the tribe of Gad, which is an absolutely insane, non-historical, non-scientific notion. But nonetheless, it's what they teach, okay? And so they're saying you guys got your land taken away because you're pagan idolaters. You're worshiping all these other things. And it's a very bad stereotype. They're saying you worship totem poles. First of all, my understanding for the tribes that do use totem poles, that's not even an accurate assessment of really what they're doing there, number one. Number two, that's a Northwest Native American thing. For example, even the Alaskan Native Americans and I think some of the Canadian Native Americans, that's not all Native Americans. A totem pole is not a universal Native American thing, but no one's expecting Hebrew Israelites to be experts on comparative religion. But the main point is that what they're saying is you guys got your land, America, taken away because you were pagan idolaters. You're supposed to only worship the one true God. So far, so good, Abu?
No, yeah. I mean, I think this is at least indicative of how they were antagonizing them. It's funny that if you're looking for a group that was mocking and challenging the Native American protest, the House of Israel would be the example. I mean, I can't imagine what the news reports would look like if those kids from the Catholic school were calling them idolaters and saying you lost your land because you didn't follow our faith.
Yes, exactly. And what it is this House of Israel. Someone asked what camp they were. It's House of Israel. That's the name of their camp. A smaller camp. They're a smaller camp. The House of Israel, Hebrew Israelites, were doing this the whole time, and they were there for that purpose. Those kids were just waiting for their bus, and then they happened to be there by the Hebrew Israelites because some of them got there super early. But these guys were there for that intention and purpose, the House of Israel, Hebrew Israelites. Now continue on with this discussion, if you want to call it that, between the women and the Hebrew Israelites. It's going to get...
Bring it out, savage, brother. I don't know where you got that
part. I'm playing them in order. So I'm trying to play these in order. This is the part where he says Indian means savage, and this guy disagrees. It's sort of humorous if you watch it. Here we go.
Indian does not mean savage. Bring it out. Savage, brother. I don't know where you got that from. Look it up, brother. I can't look it up.
Savage. I don't know where you got that from. That's a common thing. That's a common response Hebrew Israelites always get because they literally pull information out of the ether.
Okay,
it came from Indio. It came from a Spanish word, Indio,
right?
Which means God like people.
No, yes, Indios, yes, God like people. But Indian, that word means savage. In the English text, in the English dictionary, your Webster's, it means savage, man.
I looked it up in Webster's just to make sure. No Webster's dictionary I found gave that definition.
The white man, right, the so-called white, just like me, he calls us Puerto Ricans. That means port of riches. Which port? That was the name that the conquistadors gave us, the Spaniards. You understand? So these are the derogatory names, and we're trying to tell you that these names are your true names.
Now, if you notice, he pointed to the 12 tribes chart there at the end of the clip. So what he's saying is, and what we're trying to do here, everyone, is give fuller context to this confrontation. That's what we're trying to do here on today's show. And we're trying to help people who are interested in this, that want to be better informed on the topic. We're trying to give them a longer, fuller discussion. We're going to go about it for an hour or so here total. And we'll do a part two, if it's necessitated, to who these Hebrew Israelites are that are actually at the center of this without a lot of people understanding what they actually believe and teach. What he's saying is, you've been given this other name by someone else, but you're actually Israelites. And he's saying, you're right here on this chart. And they actually believe Seminoles are from Reuben, and the rest of the Native Americans would be from Gad. And so he's pointing to those two things, in essence, saying, this is who you really are. Abu, do you want to fill people in any more other than that?
Well, yeah, he said these are the derogatory names, and he points to the sign. Interestingly enough, I don't know, are you going to show the clip where she points out that some of those names are actually the indigenous names, like Cuba and Guatemala and all that?
Yeah, the woman arguing with him makes a good point. She says, well, Guatemala and Panama are indigenous names because it says Guatemala and Panama on the chart.
Yeah,
which the chart,
even Cuba is a Taino name.
The chart is super weird. It jumps from ethnic groups, such as, it'll say so-called American blacks, to geographical regions. It'll say from Panama to here. So the chart is really weird in the way it flip-flops around. It's also super weird that all Native Americans are part of Gad according to this chart, and yet Reuben is separated out as the Seminoles. That's weird.
Honestly, though, the chart makes sense insofar that when it was made up, it was made by men who were primarily focusing on the African-American community in the northeastern United States. And so the further they got away, I mean, it's easy, Puerto Ricans were were ubiquitous in New York, so they can get included. But as they got further and further away from the New York paradigm, the paradigm of New York in the 50s and 60s and 70s, you could see the chart got lazier and lazier in terms of their identifications, and that's how you get these like broad geographical areas.
Got a great comment here, Abu. Sorry to interrupt, but I want to get to this comment.
Problem.
True Justice, excuse me, True Justice 1 says, "True, we can't prove the 12 tribes list, but Vocab can't disprove it." Let me do a little bit of disproving real quick here. Let me ask this question. Part of the people on the lists for the 12 tribes chart who will be part of Gad will be the Creek in the I believe it's pronounced Choctaw. I know the Creek, and I think even the Muskegee. Those 3 groups of Native American tribes are relatives, and some are even ancestors and descendants of the Seminoles. Now, how can the Seminoles be on their own separate chart as Reuben, and yet people that they're directly related to, either by ancestors or descendants, be in a separate place? That doesn't make any sense. That's a problem. Not only that, you just got Mexico listed as Issachar. Just all of Mexico, Issachar. You have no way to know who's a mestizo, who goes back to native blood, and who's Spanish conquistador blood. You have no way to know that, and yet you just list Mexico as Issachar. And the big problem for you is you say it has to be on your father's side. You don't know with any given Chicano that you meet, you have no idea on their father's side where is a Spanish conquistador or where's a native man, and yet you just, now what you say is, oh, if they accept our teachings and we meet them and we can read their spirit and feel their vibration. But it's an insane way to do history and epistemology. That 12 tribes chart has been debunked, and it can be disproved. I mean,
not only that. I mean, I would also say it's also very hard to take seriously. I mean, I guess if you imagine something highly miraculous, it's possible, but it's also very hard to take seriously when you start mixing the idea of both the natives and those of the African diaspora being within the same tribe. So, for example, let's say the Tainos in specifically Puerto Rico are somehow from the tribe of Ephraim, and then the Spaniards bring over slaves from West Africa, but they only drop off Ephraimites that they picked up in West Africa, and then they take the Benjamites to Jamaica or something like that. It starts to really become hard to take seriously. So, or they took the Spaniards took the Simeonites over to Quisqueya, and they're dropping off the Ephraimites from Africa in Borinquen or something like that. It's really hard to take seriously. It's just
you have a situation.
It makes more sense that it was just a sloppily thrown together, hastily thrown together chart once it moved beyond the African American experience.
These colonialists are rounding folks up, through the kidnapping process, because the transatlantic slave trade is a horrible thing, and they're rounding them up, and then they're saying, okay, well, we know who all the Ephraimites are here. We know who's all of Simeon, so let's make sure they all get off on this one island. Even though it would be across the spectrum of West African tribes and peoples, all these people are of this group. It's absolutely ludicrous. Let me play this next clip here as we get into this conversation.
And you got these pompous bastards over there wearing "Make America Great" hats again.
And why y'all not after them? Why you not angry at them?
Hear that? So the second someone contests them and steps against them, they point to the kids, and the cameraman says, "Why are you not after them? Why are you not angry with them?"
Angry at them. Why you not angry at them? Why you not angry at them? Come on, man. Our people be cooned out, man.
I'm not going to dismiss her just yet.
Nah, don't dismiss her. Talk to her.
Right.
And the next clip.
You worship the creator, not the creation. And that's the reason why we...
Why do you want to separate the creator from the creation?
I'm not separating it, but I'm telling you...
Son is separating himself?
Listen to what I'm trying to tell you, sister. Listen. Half of understanding is listening. That's an art. Right. You understand?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'm trying to show you something.
We're here trying to have a...
This is... you know how many years... Listen. You know how many years our people been saying no justice, no peace?
Right.
How many years we've been marching and protesting, and guess what? The white man ain't listening to you.
That's right.
The white man don't give a damn about your march, about none of it. No.
Okay, he's saying, why are you even out here? What he's saying to her is, you are wasting your time. We've been doing this a lot longer, or we've been doing this a long time, and we've never got anywhere. He is casting aspersions on the whole thing, saying they're not going to listen to you now.
Well, that happened 2 days ago. It is very interesting and almost ironic to hear it on the on Martin Luther King Day, because there has been a historical hostility amongst Israelite groups to the civil rights movement, to the heroes of the civil rights movement, in particular Martin Luther King. Many of them disrespect Martin Luther King. And as you've covered in the past on the episode of The Dividing Line, while it wasn't a one Wester, it was nonetheless an Israelite who murdered Martin Luther King's mother, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a Hebrew Israelite murdered Martin Luther King Jr.'s mother. So,
out of this sort of hatred for him, which is the hatred itself was rooted in jealousy. You know,
they call him Martin Lucifer King. Let me play now. If you notice, she said they're listening at their subatomic level. I don't know if you guys caught that. So she has a different worldview, obviously, than him. And her point, though, is sort of pseudoscientific. But what she's actually trying to say, because I'm going to play the rest of this 9 seconds, she's trying to say, because we're all from the earth, there's a commonality. So she has a more universal sort of brotherhood of man view. The Hebrewites are not going to share that view. But listen.
Gotta come back. Listen. His atoms are listening. Listen, sister. Listen. If you
his atoms are listening. His spirit is listening.
Attention, you might learn something. See, you just want to talk. You're not trying to learn.
Continuing on with
Who are the Africans from? What tribe? The Africans are not our people. Just because you have, they have.
The Africans are not our people, so they believe they're from a different people group, and they actually believe Africans will be enslaved as well.
They have the same color. No, the Africans, if you look at them, their spirit is different. They don't move the way we move.
So the evidence is the Africans move differently than black Americans. Their spirit is different. Do you hear the subjective epistemology? This is not how you determine people's lineage, ladies and gentlemen.
Africans are from the children of Ham. They are Hamites, Hamitic, and they're Canaanites.
Another clip?
Hold on, sister. Hold on.
I want to play this one, and Abu, I'm gonna let you comment. This one's a little bit longer, but everyone listen to this one carefully. This is the run-up to what happened at the end. We're trying to give the full context as well as explain who these Hebrew Israelites are and what they believe as the house of Israel.
Have some order here.
Yeah, order.
Listen, I'm trying to. Oh my goodness.
There's a lot of different tribes.
You're being annoying.
Now you're being annoying, he says to her. Out of all the people in this video, who do you think is being the most annoying? My vote goes to the One West House of Israel camp. What a joke.
She's doing it on purpose, too.
She's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Stop being a demon.
Yeah.
She's doing it on purpose to stop being a demon.
Yeah.
Let's have some decorum. Let's
have some decorum. Hebrews like asking for decorum.
You don't have no order. You don't have no decorum, and you're out of order. Where's your?
Okay, here it comes. Now I'm gonna play this in a second, but I need to switch over. Okay, Hebrew Israelites, especially the One West type, they act very tough. They yell at people. They curse at people. They say that no one can challenge their doctrine. They do threaten people. They do all this kind of stuff online. Right now in the live chat, we got guys saying all kinds of bizarre stuff. And yet, someone who's clearly more informed than them, whoever this young woman is, I think she did a fine job. This wasn't the same lady who was cursing earlier. She was doing a fine job explaining her perspective. If they're so tough and all this, why can't they handle just a little bit of questioning from this young woman? Because the second it gets too hot for them, he's going to say, and I'm going to play this clip, "Where's your husband at? Where's your man? I'll talk to him." Now look, if that was the real issue, why didn't you say that in the beginning? Abu, let's help people understand what's going on in this clip. I'm about to play the rest of it where he says, "Where's your husband at?"
Well, I would say I would interpret it in the context of their general penchant for misdirection, that when things start to get a little bit frustrating for them, it very quickly, either they'll resort to insults or they'll look for a way out of it, or what they'll do often is as I said, misdirection. They'll say, why are you bothering us? Why don't you go bother somebody else? Here's all these other targets you could go after. So they antagonize people, but then when people come to them, they want to sort of direct them away. They do have a belief that that they would rather be teaching a man, let a woman. They prefer women remain silent. They teach the men, and the men teach their wives. But they only bring that up as sort of when they're frustrated. They were clearly willing to talk with these women in the beginning.
All right, I'm gonna play the rest of this clip.
Hold on, sister. Hold on. I hear you. You go. Ain't no child of God. You are the devil. You are fake. You are fake $5 Indian. Go there.
I think a Caucasian lady there, and they go off on her pretty bad as well. So let's
believe they know her lineage.
Right.
I don't need to.
I know that. You won't do it.
Hold on. You
damn right.
Out of order. Where's your husband? Bring your husband here. Let me speak to him.
Okay,
order. You don't have no decorum, and you're out of order. Where's your husband? Bring your husband here. Let me speak to him.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
speak to your
right.
husband.
That's right.
You would say to Noah's wife.
That's right.
That's exactly right. You damn right.
She said, would you say that? And she names a Bible character, and they're saying, yeah, we would say that to that Bible character as well.
You out your mind. That's order. You won't do it. You won't do it.
I don't need to.
I know that. You won't do it. I know. I hear you.
He's saying you won't go get your husband, and she's saying, why would I need to do that?
Listen, and that's the reason why the white man got his foot in your ass.
And that's the reason why the white man has this, because you won't. See what I'm saying?
And that's the reason why you can't move. Listen.
Now the white lady jumps in. Now it's gonna go bonkers. Here we go, everybody.
You're a $5 Indian. You go over there, you're $5 Indian. You ain't no child of God. You are the devil. You are fake. You are fake $5 Indian. Go that way. You're not our people. Stop trying to. You always want to take our culture, just like the white man. He wants to be the Egyptians. He wants to be the Israelites. He wants to be everybody.
She's blowing the shofar.
Ram horn doesn't make you our people. You're a damn culture vulture. You're a culture vulture. No all nations. You're a damn blue-eyed demon.
Salakia. That's the last Mohican.
Right. That's the last Mohican. You out your mind. Let's get back. I'm sorry, brother, but I got to deal with these demons and I got to dismiss.
He's got to deal with these demons. Sorry, brother. So he's apologizing for how his decorum became when he dealt with the demons. It's a pretty bizarre scene. You have a lady who's in some way in solidarity with the Native Americans, and
we don't know her ancestry. She may be of partial Native American ancestry.
Yeah, we don't know her ancestry. They assume, but in some ways, she also appears to be involved with perhaps Messianic Judaism because she blows the shofar. And I heard her saying, the way I said Messianic Judaism, is because when she was walking away, if you listen to the clip closely, you can hear her say, it says all nations, all people. That's it. It seems she's quoting New Testament passages by what she's saying. It seems like she's standing in solidarity with him, yet the Hebrew Israelites use sort of a pejorative $5 Indian. That wasn't a very good joke. Now, the other guy who said, Aok, that's the last of the Mohicans, that was a little funnier, but Abu, thoughts?
I mean, it's only valuable insofar that it shows the incoherence and the chaos of what was going on before the brief interaction between the Catholic students and the Native American drummers, which the media focused on. This is really the setting. This is the one Westers arguing with everyone, and it's interesting that they wanted to take that down, to prevent all these people from seeing that what really was the stage that this happened on was them trying to basically get into it with everyone, which, I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that is somewhat it's fairly typical of One West camps. They pick fights with everyone, just about, unless someone agrees with them fully.
Yes. Now let me play some other clips that are closer to the point of the sort of showdown between the students and Hebrew Israelites, where the Native American folks came in the middle of. These are very enlightening as well. Check this clip out.
Right. And look at these damn devils, man. Make America great again. That's why America is shut down right now, because America was never great.
That's right.
So watch the video. The kids are walking by because they have a destination to get to. Where are they going? They're going to meet their bus. These guys, same group, just a different main speaker, they are clearly the ones antagonizing them. They're just walking by to their place. Do you notice this? No one is saying anyone's perfect. I'm just saying that the real catalyst is a small group of rabble-rousers who are the Hebrew Israelites. We have some in the chat. Lions of Israel, you people are done. The Most High is about to break his foot off in your asses. Maccabees, Nicholas, Esau is finished. So these are clearly one Westers, and I would imagine they're proud of this behavior. Let me play this clip.
That's right. America was always stolen. Little devils are going into slavery.
That's right.
You said you're going into slavery. That's what they're saying. Now, this is key. Now, Abu, I know you can't see it, but the man with the afro, which is not a bad fro, by the way. It's a decent fro. I'm feeling it a little bit. He says, I want that one. Now, everyone listen. And Abu, I'm going to have you explain the concept of the personalized slavery in a second here, but I need to play the rest of this clip, okay?
I want that one. Slap it
Mango Orchard.
Right, Mango Orchard.
Mango Orchard.
He says 3 times, I want that one. Watch the guy with the fro carefully. I'm gonna rewind just a little bit. 3 times, and he's talking about, I'm going to slap Billy. Watch.
I want that one. Slap it
Mango Orchard.
Right, Mango Orchard.
Mango Orchard. They're going into my mango orchard.
He's saying they're going to go into my mango orchard. So I'm going to explain what all this means in a second, everyone. Everything they're saying is rooted in their insane theology. He said that he's going to go into my mango orchard. Okay, listen to the rest.
See, that's very pompous of them little bastards, and they did it purposely. Right. They coming out here, that's so much mockery to the natives, man. Right. And then they talking about black, white, yellow, brown. Right. You out your mind. This is the reason why they took the damn land, because Gadites is simple. They drunk all that. So
that's an insult there to the Native Americans. When they say Gadites, in their parlance, that means Native Americans. He's saying Gadites are simple, saying that's why the land got taken. Listen to this.
The damn land, because Gadites is simple. They drunk all that damn fire water, man.
Stereotype about Native Americans being drunk. Did you hear that? Which apparently is funny to them. Okay, Abu, explain the slavery situation, especially the personalized slavery aspect that is very common among one Westers, where they mark out somebody who they would like to have as their personal slave.
Yeah, well, in general, they believe that everyone who isn't on their charts is ultimately going to go into slavery, including people who die before Judgment Day. They're going to be reincarnated and go into slavery based on their lineage, irrespective of what they believe, if they don't descend from Jacob. But amongst one Westers, they go even deeper, and many of them, including the House of Israel, believe, I don't know what they base this on, but at least for the sake of assuaging their own frustration, mitigating their own frustration, they'll openly fantasize about someone mocking them being their personal slave. And I mean, this is part of the group. I remember, with all due respect to Zabach, I have memories of seeing Zabach in Times Square in the 90s doing that, where he insults someone, the guy starts mocking him, and he'll say, you're going to be my personal slave, you're going to be my boy, I'm going to have you, doing X, Y, and Z, such and such chores and stuff like that. So well, they literally get that from their leadership.
Yeah, they name their chores here. The chores here where they're going to be going into my mango orchard. So these guys fantasize they're going to have a mango orchard, and that group of students will be the slaves who work the mango orchard.
I really do believe it's a psychological tactic, and not so much for the people that are opposing them, but for themselves. That this really does it's their own reaction to their own frustrations. They sort of publicly reassure themselves.
Yep. Listen to this next clip. We got more of this stuff.
They didn't want to walk back this way.
They didn't want to walk back this way, right?
Yeah, they didn't want to walk back this way.
I would have walked past here, bombed up. Slice him with the sword.
I want Macaulay Culkin over here.
Here, bombed up. Slice him with the sword.
I want Macaulay Culkin over here.
You want to catch him home alone, huh?
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin got to get it. Read on. want Macaulay Culkin on there.
You want to catch him home alone, huh?
Catch him home alone. Yeah, Macaulay Culkin got to get it.
Macaulay Culkin got to get it. So, Abu.
From those Catholic school students, they acted like a bunch of teenage boys, you know, but the thing is, it was coming from both sides. The sophomoric behaviors is just everywhere there, you know, and the Native American drummers walked right into the midst of that, of these two groups riling each other up.
Right. Guys, sorry, there was a second there where Abu's mic was muted, and I had him down. That was my fault. He is back. There's no problem with the internet. For a second, I had him muted because it was loud earlier, so I had muted him up. I'm gonna have to just leave you up. That way, that doesn't happen again. Just try not to
be more quiet. I'll try to be more quiet.
Okay, that was my fault, everybody. Christopher Young, much love to you. And you know what? So you said you could go an hour and a half. Guys,
yeah, I can go longer.
Everyone, we've been going an hour. My thought was, let's make this an hour. I need you guys to vote. Do you want us to go for 20 or 30 more minutes? Because our plan was to end right here. We hypothetically could end. We've covered a lot. I do have more clips. There is more to explain. What do you guys want out of this? If you want to go for 30 more, 20 more minutes, I need to see a bunch of ones. I need you to vote. If you don't, give me a 2. Let me see what's going on here. And while you're at it, hit the likes up button. If the likes up button goes up, if the view count goes up because you grab this link and share it, then I'll say, okay, we'll go for a little bit more with our analysis. But let me read a quote from Christopher Young in the Super Chat. By the way, usually I always interact with the Super Chats in the live chat. It's a little bit more difficult to do this today because we want to get through this, and we want to put it out ASAP, and we want it to be succinct. So apologize for that. In the next live stream, I'm going to do a freestyle for you guys that gave to the Super Chat. Just not in this show probably, but if you give enough, I'll kick it off with it. Thanks for covering all this vocab. I knew you would come with some good material. I especially like the clip where they attempted to direct hate towards the kids early on. The biggest victims in all this are the kids. All right, so next clip of the Hebrew Israelites. This is towards the end of everything, but I think you guys will find this fascinating as well.
This is what our people still don't get. That's what the so-called Native Americans still don't get. That's what the so-called black man still don't get. That's what the so-called Hispanic man still don't get. That these people are our natural born enemies, man.
Right. So he's getting amped up. He's saying part of the problem with black folks and Native Americans, they don't realize that non-Israelite people groups, yes, they're focusing on white folks, but he's saying everyone not on the chart are our natural-born enemies.
There's no peace with them, man. There's no peace with them, man.
No peace with them. So obviously, that's their message.
I'm going to speak up. The Lord said he shall send us against a hypocritical nation.
All right, so this is the other speaker. I'm going to play this, and we're going to do some more extended commentary on this. This is a little bit longer clip. It's 2 minutes. My thought was the more clips I show, the more exposes what these guys really believe. And after we play this, we're going to do more extended commentary, and I may not be able to play any more clips. There's so much here to play. This is the other speaker. This is going back a little further into the day. But listen to this. He's yelling at this point at the groups of students. Listen to this.
Make us swear on the Bible you got on the back of the court.
There will be some language here, by the way. Some very offensive language, everyone.
System. In God we trust. On the back of your dollar bill, it says, in God we trust. But you give faggots rights.
Hear that? The March for Life kids are not okay with that kind of language. So when he says that, he gets booed by the March for Life kids. Listen to that again. That kind of language is not okay by them.
In God we trust, but you give faggots rights. The Bible condemns homosexuality, man.
They're still
so
humans.
Guess what? Read that again, Baba Kushar.
I will send him against a hypocritical nation.
A hypocritical nation. You make us swear on the Bible, but you judge us by your penal code system. You don't judge us by the law of God.
What he's saying is, why do we swear on the Bible in law court settings, but yet you don't use the Bible for the laws of the land? That's what he's saying there. I'm just trying to explain what he's actually saying.
How you don't judge us? Still don't care. How you don't judge us? You can
Don't care.
That's right. And you... Wait. Tell that to Bill Cosby.
Well, what is care?
Tell that to Bill Cosby.
Don't care.
How you don't judge?
Are the buses here yet? Where are the buses?
Hear that? Are the buses here yet? Are the buses here yet? The high school kids are just waiting on their buses. They're just like, they have no idea what is going on.
Johnny!
Let's go home. You took a piece of the peace pipe. Get it. Right. I see it. I can see it in his face. Right. And you pull out the car. So, what the Lord said is y'all hypocritical nation. Read. All right?
After this, we're going to more talk.
Please keep
I will
reading.
give him a charge. I will set him against a hypocritical nation and against the people of my wrath. All right? Will I give him a charge? And against the people of his wrath, he shall give him charge. And that's what see ya.
What's happening? The bus arrived. These kids did not want to be around these dudes. They were not there to encircle them. The second the bus comes, shouts of joy, cheers of elation go up, and these kids, some of these kids are actually running. Watch some of these kids run to the bus. So the whole narrative that's been given is totally backwards, and the stuff the Israelites said about what happened is completely wrong. And the funny thing is the Israelites really should be at the center of this, but in a way I'm glad they're not, because they don't need any more love. They don't need any more publicity. But let me just play this last 15 seconds. Watch them run when the buses arrive.
And that's what see ya.
Let's go home. Let's go home. They are trotting. So, Abu.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to describe it to you as well. I think we're able to hear it.
Yeah, I was.
Again, what do we need to reiterate here? So we're going a little bit longer than planned, but not too much longer, because I got enough votes, but I didn't get enough as I wanted. So let's just kind of wrap some of this up. We need to kind of put a bow on it.
All right, well,
go ahead.
I would basically reiterate what I said in the beginning, which is that this is the real context to what happened. The young men, these students from this Catholic school, were getting into a sophomoric exchange with some equally sophomoric gentlemen from the One West group called the House of Israel. And so it wasn't that, while the initial media report said that these kids surrounded some Native American drummers who were minding their business, what actually happened is the Native American drummers walked into the middle of this exchange between the House of Israel group and these students from some Catholic school in Kentucky. And that's the context. They sort of walked right into the midst of a group that was already riled up, already chanting, and then very brief clips were taken from that, after they walked into the midst of it. But really what set this off was the House of Israel group generally in behaving the way that One West camps often do, and riling people up and getting people to respond negatively to their negative comments.
Now, just in case anybody wonders, I'm going right now into my Facebook inbox, and I'm looking on my screen where I sent the House of Israel, that's their Facebook page, a message last night. And I'm going to read you what it says. I sent it at 12:14 a.m. last night to the official House of Israel Facebook page. I've seen the footage of the D.C. showdown. Would you like to come on my YouTube channel Monday and share your perspective on what happened? Vocab Malone. That's simply what it says. So, if any House of Israel member would like to come on, especially if you were there, and explain your perspective about what would happen, we would love to hear it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for some of the videos, because I never gave the link to the longer 2-hour video we've been showing. But Abu, what do you think we can learn from this? This whole situation. Is there something we can learn from this?
Yes, actually, one interesting thing is there's a parallel between, on the one hand, the initial media reports showing you a brief clip and then trying to tell you what the context was rather than showing you the context. There's a parallel between that and this guy Shar Yakataz, or Yakwataz, I guess he would call himself, Banyamyan, between him taking down a video and insisting that people go by his very brief verbal description of what happens. You notice how there's this parallel between not wanting people to see or not showing people the larger context and preferring that you just accept a narrative telling you what the context was. I thought that was interesting.
So you're saying that the media is similar to the One West Hebrew Israelites in that they engage in propaganda?
Well, there certainly are some in the media that seem to have stripped it of its context. Now, I don't know how deliberate that was across the spectrum of people who reported it. Some of them may have been just repeating something they saw someone else report. But at a certain level, someone clearly isolated a clip and stripped it of its context and then provided a context in the form of their textual description, which sort of put a different spin on it. And it is interesting that the guy Shar Yakwataz Banyamyan wanted to do the same thing. He took down his video, which showed the context, and insisted that people show him describing the context instead. May I comment real quick on the time frames for people who are going to use that link? If you use that link, so what I would say very quickly, we've shown much of what happens earlier on. And so at the beginning of the video, you can see them berating the Native Americans protesters. But if you jump to roughly the 1 hour and 8 minute mark, or roughly 1:08:45, so 45 seconds into the 1 hour and 8 minute mark, you can see how the boys are getting riled up and they're chanting as a way of counteracting or taunting or mocking House of Israel. Then if you watch from there all the way to the 1 hour 12 minute mark, it is then that the Native American drummers walk into the midst of this already existing maelstrom and this group of already chanting and riled up young men. And the interesting thing is, if you watch from there, from the 1 hour 12 minute mark, you'll see that the members of House of Israel comment that the boys calmed down. They calmed down once Gad got here. So the thing is, the boys were already riled up, and the Native American drummers walk into the midst of it, and then it dissipates very quickly. I don't think most of them intended to be disrespectful towards the Native Americans. It is possible that some of them were disrespectful, were a bit mocking, but it dissipates quickly. And even the members of House of Israel remarked on that. They said, "Oh, Gad calmed them down." And so I think, but those are the key points: the 1 hour 8 minute mark, and then watch all the way to the 1 hour 12 minute mark and beyond, and that will give you the proper context for what was reported very loosely in the media initially, although some have begun to talk about the larger context.
All right, people are saying my microphone is down. Abu, can you hear me?
I can hear you beautifully.
Okay, everyone, can you hear me? Can you hear Abu? I need to know. I do not know why. I got everything set up properly. I hope that everyone can hear me. And so, one more time, I'm going to put that link in there. What are the key times they need to watch?
It's the 1 hour 8 minute mark. Start it there. You can see the boys chanting and stuff like that, where they're riled up and they're coming out with their school chants. And then watch from there to the 1 hour 12 minute mark, which is when the Native American drummers walk into the midst of this already existing maelstrom. And that's the way to think it. Rather than the boys surrounding the Native American drummers, there was this sort of standoff between them and the House of Israel, and the Native American drummers walked into the midst of that, into to an already chanting, already whipped up group. So the 1 hour 8 minute mark, and then the 1 hour 12 minute mark, and then watch beyond there.
And what we've done is given context to the entire situation by showing a number of clips, more than I think you'll find anywhere else. I'll take a couple comments now from the live chat if you guys would like to throw some at me, but I want to play just a couple more clips first. But if you've got some to send, go ahead.
What is happening?
So notice the kids have no idea what's going on.
Claim your past. Claim your true history. Claim Greeks. Claim the Romans. The Greeks was a bunch of homosexuals. Just like the Romans. You what? You proud of sodomy? You are like a He said he's a product. Get back up. Let's go. Just like got a line. Let's work the line. Just like the trucks. It's fun. Get a line. Let's go. Listen, because I know y'all a little younger than me. So let me show y'all something. Stay back. Go on YouTube, right? And y'all can look it up for yourself. Check this out.
Probably gonna do that.
I'm gonna give y'all something. Check this out. Go on YouTube and look up Donald Trump kisses drag. You're gonna see your president kiss Rudy Giuliani dressed in a drag on the lips. Your president is a homosexual. I got news for you. That's homophobic. Your president is a homosexual. No, Donald Trump don't support gays. Donald Trump took the gays, told the gays they can't be in the army. Ain't y'all supporting Trump? Ain't y'all? Ain't y'all supporting Trump?
That's not even a real book.
You know what?
That's not even a real book.
How is it not a real book when you go in the judge in the court office and they make us swear on it? They make us swear on the Bible.
Oh my!
How is it not a real book?
I can swear on a children's book.
Then America's not a real country. Because you swear on lies. You understand that?
I got it.
This is let me show you. If this is not a real book, let me show you what the Bible says about your country. Give me that. Genesis 6. Check this out. They're not going to read this in the Catholic Church. They're not going to read this in your Christian church. Check this one out.
If that's possible.
Yes.
And so he was saying, why don't you claim your history? Why don't you claim the Greeks and the Romans? The interesting thing is, House of Israel itself teaches that they ruled Western Europe and I guess Eastern Europe as well from the time of Septimius Severus. So we're talking like the end of the 2nd century all the way until the end of the 15th century, roughly around the time of the fall of Constantinople. So in some respects, according to their own view, historiography or whatever, their own view of history, that's their history, the Greeks and the Romans, at least from the 2nd century onwards. But I just want to throw that out there.
All right, everybody, I need to know, can you hear me and can you hear Abu? Let me know one more time. I think you should be able to. So again, here's let me explain this, why we did this show today. We don't expect the media to understand about the Hebrew Israelites at a very in-depth level. Okay, we do not expect that. But because of that, we want to fill in the missing gaps. Because you just hear, oh, Hebrew Israelites, they sometimes say black Hebrew Israelites. Like I said, some people mistakenly thought they were black Muslims, right? Okay, so we want to fill in the gaps here for you today. So what we're doing is saying these guys were at the March for Life, although they didn't intend to be at the March for Life. The reason I say at the March for Life, because that was the main big event that had been happening. That was the event that the media did not really report on. They just almost acted like it did not happen until there was something that they viewed as confrontational. But Abu and I spoke about this earlier. We don't claim to be the experts on Hebrew Israelites, but we don't know that many. If there's a 10 list, I'm going to put Abu in it. I'll put it that way. If there's a top 10 list, okay, of people who understand Hebrew Israelism very well.
Now, at least the 1-1 spectrum.
Yeah. I'll put you at number 1. Let me be at number 10. As far as outsiders go, I'm not talking about people inside the group and all that. Okay, so here's what's up. We're trying to fill in the gaps, and what we're saying is, here's what the House of Israel Hebrew Israelites believe. Here is part of their role in the situation. And part of the role in the situation is that they were antagonizing everyone at the march. And so at the end of the March for Life, where the Hebrew Israelites were at, because they came there for the Indigenous Peoples March, which was going on simultaneously at the steps of the Capitol and all that stuff. What's the technical name of the? No, I'm just forgetting. What's the technical name of where they were? The
Lincoln Memorial.
Lincoln Memorial. So I'm so sorry. A lot going on in my head. While they're all there, the kids who had just finished the March for Life, which we view as a good thing, and we view it actually to be pretty impressive that young folks care about such an important issue, that they're there, right? And there they are. They're still high school kids. This is not an apologetic for them. They act like high school kids, but they're waiting for their bus. They're waiting. It's clear they don't really know what's going on, but all they see is all this stuff going back and forth. And every time they're around, the Hebrew Israelites make mention of them because of what they're wearing. Is the primary reason. But the thing is, if you watch videos of Hebrew Israelites on the street, it doesn't matter if a white person has a MAGA hat on or not. They'll still say something about them. In fact, some of the camps will specifically point to children and say, I'm going to have your daughter in the future. They'll say that to young girls. Some of the camps do that. House of Israel doesn't do that I've seen, but I have seen House of Israel go out of their way to attack verbally when they see same-sex couples walking down the street in New York. I have seen that. And they will.
Can I say real?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Abu.
I'm sorry, real quick. See, as we covered earlier, I was initially under the impression that they were only there coincidentally, and you corrected me and informed me that they were there specifically for this Indigenous Persons March that commemorates the history. Here's the thing. If they were there deliberately, if they were there consciously for that Indigenous Persons March, it becomes all the more ironic because they weren't there to support them. They weren't there to join them. If they were there for that, they were there to confront them because that's what they did. They mocked them. They mocked their alleged beliefs. They straw-manned their beliefs and attacked those straw-mans and generally belittled them. And it becomes all the more ironic if they came there specifically for that march because that means they came there to antagonize these Native Americans, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's important to bring up and explain that there's intentionality on their part. And the thing is, you may think, how can 6 guys create such a problem? Hebrew Israelites, as far as the One West variety goes, which we're discussing, they act how they act. There's no chill mode. There's no tactical approach to situations. There's no understanding of context. If you notice, they were totally in the dark about why the kids were there. They thought they had come specifically to mock the Indigenous Peoples March. They didn't understand they were there for the March for Life. They did not understand that. They're usually,
and that'd be ironic if they themselves were there to mock the Indigenous Peoples March, because then that would be a little bit of projection. So if they were there for that, and then they accuse somebody else of being there for that, it would be an ironic example of projection.
The things they said about the religious beliefs, if any of the high school students would have said, that would have been part of the news clips. Calling them Uncle Tomahawks, saying they were addicted to fire water. These are things the Hebrew Israelites were saying about the Native Americans there. Unbelievable. Imagine if one of those kids had said anything like that, call them Uncle Tomahawks, or saying that they were addicted to firewater, or if they were talking to a female and they said, where's your husband? Go get your husband. Well, guess what? Hebrew Israelites did all that behavior. Hebrew Israelites, a number of times, I didn't even show the clips, a half a dozen times, the cameraman keeps on saying to some kid on a skateboard, if you get any closer, I'm going to do this and do that to you. Threat after threat after threat. I'm going to break my foot off in your A. Like, called them incest kids. The list goes on and on and on of the things they were saying. And we just showed a taste, a smidgen. And, of course, dissing people who weren't even there, people involved in same-sex activity. So they can do this because all they do is come into a situation and yell. Now, what they say is, hey, we're here to wake our people up and all this. But you see the behavior of how they act. Now, do I think that they should be jailed or arrested? No, I'm not saying anything like that. In fact, Abu and I were talking, and I didn't get to finish this point earlier. This whole video to us was a non-event. This whole video, we were like, okay, nothing happened. And here's the reason why it was a non-event to us, and I'll let Abu come in on this. We watch Hebrew Israelite videos. We interact with them on the street. Abu's done so in New York. I've done so in Chicago. I've done so in Columbus. I've done so in L.A. I've done so here in Phoenix. We know how they act. We've seen what happens on the street. We've been in the middle of it sometimes. Watching this video, we were like, okay, yeah, there's more people. The Native American element's usually not present when you're out on the street as far as a strong way. Actually, in Phoenix, sometimes it is, just not as strong. To us, we were like, this is sort of a non-event. This is another day in the life for a One West Hebrew Israelite. Abu, can you explain? Because this was really it's not really very newsworthy in my judgment at all. But what were your thoughts?
It doesn't stand out. It doesn't stand out in terms of One West history, the history of various One West camps. No, it doesn't. One thing I will say, though, and this has been my experience, admittedly, I haven't had a conversation with any of them in person in over a decade. But as I had mentioned at the outset, in the 90s, I spoke with Zabach a couple times at his camps. And I had said, if you're calm and respectful with him, he's generally calm and respectful with you. One thing I've noticed with them, and this is for anyone who's going to go and try to have a discussion with them in public and even online, is they're going to occasionally say sharp things and say things that you're going to take as disrespectful to set you off.
Occasionally.
Yeah. But here's the thing. If you respond emotionally, which is what they're searching for, it's just going to keep escalating.
Yeah,
things work out better if you remain calm and keep it on doctrine. And that's been my experience, Keep it on doctrine, keep calm, because the thing is, if you have an emotional response, then they're going to meet it with a more emotional response, and it just keeps escalating, and that is typical. But what's also typical, not of all of them, but I will say it's typical at least of House of Israel camps, when Zabach is leading them, that if the people who are speaking to him are calm, he's generally calm as well. He might say some occasionally disrespectful things, but if the people he's speaking with remain calm and respectful, he'll deal with them respectfally as well.
Yeah,
actually, interestingly enough, we saw that with also. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Abu is a gentleman, but I gotta say, I think Abu is understating the case. Meaning, there's lots of videos of Zabach. Zabach's the leader of House of Israel, where he is just letting people have it left and right. And all you got to do is go to Zabach's channel. Do you remember his channel off the top of your head?
I do not. Usually just do searches for either We Got Next or for House of Israel, or just Zabach, Zabach,
yeah.
Zabach, and you'll get quite a few videos of him. He's been around for a very long time. Yeah. He goes all the way back to the old One West.
And you'll get an idea, and you'll see what's going on, and you'll see. But again, we're not saying that they should be banned. All we're saying is this was sort of unnewsworthy in our view, because we see this all the time. The difference is the amount of people and some of the context, and the groups of people. That makes a difference. So it's more. But the thing is, the reporting didn't really have anything to do with the Hebrew Israelites. But the thing is, the Hebrew Israelites were the real catalyst, because they were attacking folks all day. Then you have these high school students finishing the March for Life, waiting. While they're waiting, the Hebrew Israelites, who had been goading them all day, it goes on and on and on. And then while they're doing that, they're waiting on the buses, they start talking, and then some of the folks from the Native American side, at least the way Nathan Phillips described it, was, I wanted to step in the middle of the two groups. And so he steps in the middle, but when I watched it didn't seem like, it didn't seem like anything out of the ordinary for a One West camp. So he steps in the middle. What the media then got was showing the high school kids with Nathan Phillips, the drummer, and the people with him, and said, look at this epic, showdown, this confrontation between racist white high school students here at the anti-abortion rally and a peaceful, innocent Native American drummer who's there to simply celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, and look how they're jumping up and down and mocking them and all this stuff. Well, now when the full thing is shown, it's like, oh, he actually stepped in the middle of what was already going there. And now he may have done it to diffuse the situation, but it ended up where there's just this kid's just staring at this drummer for a couple of minutes, which I played in the beginning. And then the media took that where the kids were doing their high school chants and all that and said, look, they're mocking, they're intimidating. So it's just a totally bizarre misrepresentation of the situation of what really happened. But again, our point is not to vilify Hebrew Israelites. We're just showing what they teach, which we think is bad enough as it is. We think they have a right to speak it and proclaim it, but just realize how they function in this. And our goal is not to really blame anyone on the Native American side. They were just doing there what they felt needed to be done. We're not there to exonerate 100% the kids, although exonerate from some of the charges we saw, and just kind of bring clarity to the situation and say, here's a chance for us to learn more about the Hebrew Israelites, what they believe, how they respond, how they act, and really say this is not very newsworthy, because this is what Hebrew Israelism on the street looks like all the time, basically. Just without a whole bunch of high school kids, Native Americans present, but the rest, it's pretty much a constant. Final thoughts, Abu?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
All right, that's good. Everyone, please like and share this video. And also, I would like you to go ahead and hit the like button, please. Listen up, everybody. I'm going to end the show here in a second. And what I'm going to do is, if this video gets a lot of love and you guys contact me on social media, I could do a solo show late at night tonight, playing the rest of the clips and briefly explaining them. That is if you want. So if you contact me on social media, I'm not going to be able to respond to people. I'm getting way too much comments about the situation. But let me know, and also by the reaction to this video, and I could do a sort of a quick addendum tonight where I play the rest of the clips I have, as well as respond to your questions and do the freestyle that you guys earned in the super chat. So with that, I usually end with the Street Apologist show outro, but what I'm going to do now instead is end with a clip from the situation. So we are going to end on a bad note. Abu, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for everyone for watching.
When you get old enough, they're gonna steal your organs.
Whoa, hey, we love you, bro. Hey, we love you, kid. Hey, we love you.
Get out, nigga. Get out. Yo, nigga. Get out, nigga.
Get out, nigga.
Get out, nigga. You ain't see the movie?
Why you being mean?
Get out, nigga.
Why are you raging?